Okay. So in this session of Dahisar Medical Association.
You are audible, sir.
Okay. Let me first thank you, Dahisar Medical Association office bearer and organizer, for organizing this Zoom meeting webinar on this Wednesday afternoon 4 p.m. Probably in this COVID era, all of us have now got adjusted with Zoom meeting and webinar. In last few months, probably every one of us has learnt about COVID and COVID only. Whether it is a diagnosis, whether it is a management, whether it is outcome, everyone talks about COVID. Most of the seminar and webinar are all related with the COVID. RT-PCR, antigen, antibody, quarantine, isolation, certain type of antiviral medicines, they all have become a household name, and we have probably studied everything in depth. I feel it is oversaturation. So today, when the Dahisar Medical Association invited me for this talk, for which I am very thankful to them, I have selected a topic which is a very basic topic, and slightly it is hatke, and it is not with COVID. It is a separate topic. So my topic is novel parameters in CBC. Now CBC is one of such a test in all the laboratory, everywhere, all throughout the world, is the highest and maximum investigated test. Any laboratory is doing, if you are asking for a parameter, CBC is the highest number of tests we perform day in and out. CBC and pathology, in pathology, CBC has got a lot of advancement. In fact, each and every analytes, there is a, because of this high-end technology, there is a lot of advances is going on. I will take you a little bit back and little bit of pathology, and then we will start the subject. In that subject, how it is going to be useful, certain new parameters by incorporating into the basic CBC, and how it will be useful for you all clinician, for diagnosis, management, and prognostic values. Way back about 32 years back, and when I was a resident at Grant Medical College, JJ Group of Hospitals, those days CBC, we used to report a 3 or 4 line report, and it used to be manual count. Even when I started my laboratory at Dahisar, it was manual. We used to do the Newbar chamber and Sally's method for hemoglobin, for WBC count, Newbar chamber, and then we used to prepare a smear and look at the WBC differential count and platelets and parasites, how we were taught in undergraduate time. Slowly and slowly, the world has advanced very, very fast. And keeping in mind the physics, on the basics of physics, there are a lot of cell counters, that is, analyzers have been invented, and that counts the CBC, all the lineage of the blood count, very particularly, very perfect and very precisely. So in 90s and in new 21st century, so many cell counters have come out with a lot of new technology, and now we are getting WBC count, RBC count, platelet count, differential count, and other parameters very, very accurately. So on that basis, CBC was further reported with more and more accuracy. So today I have taken a topic with new novel parameters to be added to this basic CBC. Novel means something new, interesting, something striking features, which will definitely help you for your further in your clinical management. This is absolutely non-invasive method. And again, it is the same 2 ml of blood in EDTA vacutainer or EDTA tube, So in one stroke, in one go, it will give many other parameters which I would like to discuss with you. I will go very slowly and one by one parameter. And in the end, again, I will go through some of the very important parameters which we can incorporate in our routine CBC or in advanced CBC. In my laboratory, I am calling this particular CBC, which besides basic CBC, if I have to add certain new parameters, I will call this as an extended CBC or advanced CBC. Now there are three headings or four headings I will take this topic. One is erythrocyte, that is RBC parameter. Next one is WBC parameter, then reticulocyte parameter and platelet parameter. In all these things, what is more that we are going to get it by this newer technology, by this newer artificial intelligence and algorithms, which will help you for more accurate, more precise information about the complete blood count. As you see on this slide, on the right side, I have mentioned previously the report of CBC will take RBC count, hematocrit, hemoglobin, MCV, MCH, MCHC, RDW. These are all parameters which you are getting today. Up till now, if you can understand about, I will just put it in the older method in the CBC, RDW. See how it was important. Last 15-20 years, RDW has taken a lot of importance because of the accurate RBC count. And that is all because of the technology. Red cell distribution width, that is RDW, has played a big role, especially in a social requirement. Because if there is a microcytic hypochromic anemia with correlation with a normal RDW, now every one of you know this, that we must think about thalassemia minor or thalassemia trait. And it is an obligation on the part of the pathologist to inform on the report paper that this is likely to be a microcytic hyperchrominemia, which possibility there is a thalassemia carrier, and then further investigation is being done. So that was about the routine CBC and more informative, which can tell us about different type of anemia, microcytic hypochromic anemia, macrocytic hypochromic, very, very accurately and precisely. Now with this newer technology, newer methodology, there are certain things in RBC as RBC optical. Now what is RBC optical? What is fragmented red cells when it is reported on the paper? And what about the nucleated red blood cells? RBC optical. When we are doing the RBC count with this type of method, previous method was conductivity, impedance. But in newer analyzers, newer technology, RBC optical gives a very accurate RBC count. Especially, this is a little bit technology, so I will just brush it very fast, especially when it is a RBC severe microcytic hyperchromic anemia, where the RBCs are fragmented, they are small RBCs, sometimes they miss, the analyzer will miss their count. So we get falsely low RBC count. In such cases, optical method or fluorescent method or method by laser technology, each and every RBC is counted. So you'll get a corrected RBC even in the severe microcytic hypochromic anemia. Secondly, cold agglutination. I don't know, but in our area, as per the epidemiology in this type of, in our suburb, I have seen many patients as a cold agglutination. Means once we draw the blood and when we start analyzing it, our room temperature is, ambient temperature is 25 degree, 20 to 25 degrees centigrade in our laboratory. So in the cold condition, RBC gets clumped and the analyzer cannot detect this, routine analyzer. So it will give a false negative or falsely low RBC count. An entire result is haywire, MCH, MCHC. In such condition, because of this new technology, the analyzer detects by itself this type of RBC clumping, and it gets separated at certain higher temperature of body temperature. It analyzes the CBC at a body temperature of 37 degrees centigrade, and cold agglutinin is rolled down. And so you will get a corrected, perfect RBC count even in the presence of cold agglutinin. The second one is fragmented red cell count. This is a very good parameter. This is not counted, but the machine will tell us as a pathologist that look at it properly on a peripheral smear because there are fragmented RBC. This fragmented RBC is very, very useful, as I have mentioned, to differentiate between a hemolytic and nutritional anemia. In hemolytic anemia, the peripheral smear will show fragmented RBCs, while in nutritional anemia, there won't be. Also, fragmented RBCs are seen in DIC and thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura. The other erythrocyte parameters which is of course been reported till today, even as a routine parameter, is a nucleated red blood cells. Now, nucleated red blood cells normally analyzer up till now were not detecting, and it used to be getting counted as a WBC cells because they are nucleated cells, and we as a pathologist will detect only by looking at the peripheral smear. But this newer technology will directly tell us the exact number of nucleated RBC. They are the premature RBC, and also they will tell us the absolute count of nucleated RBC in a blood, in a peripheral smear. Now, what is the importance of nucleated RBC? Why one should look at it? It has got a direct indicator of erythropoietic stress. When the bone marrow is stimulated by anything, by drugs, by viral or by tumor or whatever, the bone marrow starts proliferating, and the premature RBCs, which are called as the nucleated RBCs, are thrown out into the peripheral smear. So when we see more of a nucleated RBCs in the peripheral smear, it is a direct indication of erythropoietic stress. Besides this, very important, that when you get a nucleated RBC, you should rule out hemolytic anemia or something related with the bone marrow problem. And also a patient who is critically ill, a patient in the ICU, regular monitoring of nucleated RBC helps the clinician or intensivist, because it is one of the bad prognostic marker for the critically ill patient. As the patient is taking treatment and as the patient is in the ICU or in the general ward, critically ill patient, the number of nucleated RBC, as it increases, the prognosis is poor. In that case, it requires more attention. Nucleated RBCs are normally physiologically present in the newborns and in the premature child. Now I will be going to the WBC parameters, newer parameter. Up till now, what we are getting in WBC is WBC total count, WBC differential and absolute count, and band cells. Absolute count is very important for any disease to diagnose and anything to monitor. Band cells up to certain percentage, 0 to 2% are normally present. They are also present in the newborn children. But in newer parameters, if I have to introduce, and if I have to tell you something about it, in WBC parameter, it is immature granulocyte. Now, what is immature granulocyte? Immature granulocytes are the premature myeloid series cells. They are not fully matured till neutrophils, and they are together promyelocytes, myelocytes, and metamyelocytes. So what is the importance? Why one should look at the immature granulocytes so carefully? And so important it is. It discriminates between viral infection and bacterial infection. Immature granulocytes, once they are present in your report, it is more likely to be a bacterial infection. It is an early recognition of bacterial sepsis, particularly ICU patient. As you know, when the patient has got some infection, it is called as bacteremia. And there are different stages of further development of disease into sepsis, septicemic shock, and multi-organ failure. When immature granulocytes are serially measured regularly, maybe depending upon the clinical condition, as decided by the intensivist, maybe 8 hourly, 12 hourly, 24 hourly, the serial counting of immature granulocytes, when it increases, it is a bad prognostic marker. Normally also, these immature granulocytes are seen in a patient who is taking on steroid treatment, in trauma. Physiologically, they are present to certain number, a very low number in pregnancy. Immature granulocytes, that is promyelocytes, myelocytes, metamyelocytes, that is a shift of the neutrophils towards the left side, are present in large number in peripheral smear in a bone marrow disorder like chronic myeloid leukemia. So in single line, immature granulocytes are very important for the intensivist for a critically ill patient, and along with the C-reactive protein, procalcitonin, it will help for the management of the sepsis. Somebody will say this as again a myelocytic parameter, as a high fluorescent cell. One will report as an atypical lymphocyte. They are the same nomenclature. High fluorescent cells are detected by an analyzer, and atypical lymphocytes, virocytes, small blast cells, they fall in this category. They are usually seen in leukemia, lymphoma, and viral infection, especially infectious mononucleosis. Especially when during the monsoon fever in dengue, we report large number of atypical lymphocytes. A very good important finding in a patient with bicytopenia, that means low WBC count and low platelet count. And if there are virocytes or atypical lymphocytes have been reported, one can think of a viral infection, a dengue infection, or malaria type of infection. Recently, during the COVID time, very much discussed, one of the parameter is N/L ratio. This is not a novel parameter. It is just a calculation of neutrophils divided by the lymphocyte. It used to be always there before also, but because of the COVID and lot of discussion about it, this N/L ratio has taken an importance. When it is, the ratio is more than 3 or more than 3.2, it leads to the information about the septicemia or septic infection. The higher the ratio, that means more the neutrophils, less the lymphocyte, the bad is the prognosis. So that is also one of the parameter called as N/L ratio. Now next we will go to the megakaryocytic parameters. What is megakaryocyte? Megakaryocyte are the cell, there are progenitor cells in the bone marrow from which platelets are produced or manufactured. There are a lot of things in platelets have happened, because every one of us are always facing problems. As a clinician you are, and as a pathologist we are, about the platelets reporting. Everybody always want very actual platelet count, exact platelet count. And nowadays, in so many infections, platelets are reduced. There is thrombocytopenia, whether it is a bacterial infection, whether it's septicemia, whether it's a viral infection, whether it's a patient is on chemotherapy, chronic disease, patient on malignancy, patient with a hematological problems of the bone marrow, everywhere platelets are suffered. So one will definitely require a very exact platelet count for the management. So in platelets, these newer parameters is optical platelet and immature platelet fraction. What is optical platelet? Very important. Normally in the routine type of analyzer on the previous analyzer, the platelets are counted by their size by a technology called as an impedance technology. So in this case, what happens when it is severe microcytic hyperochromic anemia, where RBCs are very small, they are almost near to the size of the platelets. So these RBCs are falsely counted and the platelet count will increase falsely. Therefore, unless we see the peripheral smear, will not come to the exact thing. And from the peripheral smear, we will say that the platelets are less, but the counter is showing, or the cell counter is showing high count or normal count. So there is a discrepancy. Similarly, whenever there is this monsoon type of fever, especially during the dengue type, we have seen in our locality, we get a lot of pseudo-thrombocytopenia. What is pseudo-thrombocytopenia means? There is a false low platelet. As I told you, false high platelet when the RBCs are very small. Similarly, false low platelets are seen when the platelets are clumped, they are clustered. And this commonly seen as a because of the anticoagulant. It is anticoagulant induced, or sometimes as a pre-analytic error when the blood has been collected but not mixed properly. In such conditions, to get the exact platelet count, especially when the platelets are low, especially when the platelets are less than 50,000, it is very important for the management. And this particular optical platelets, it counts the platelets by its content, by its RNA material, and not by the size. So one will get exact platelet count by using the method of optical platelet. By doing this, even in the very low platelet count, even in the very severe thrombocytopenia of 20,000, 10,000, we do not need any manual platelet count. Although review of the slide is a must, microscopy is a must, but there is definitely no need of manual platelet count, which is a cumbersome procedure and which is absolutely not accurate also. So my message to you all, in case of severe thrombocytopenia, in very low platelet count, if you need a very exact platelet, optical platelet will be the right thing. Next two parameters is mean platelet volume and platelet to large cell ratio. Both are similar. Mean platelet volume up till now used to report. It shows the size of the platelet. Younger platelets are always larger in size. Larger the MPV, that is mean platelet volume, larger immature platelet fraction. This probably many of us know it. In last 5-6 years, this has come into picture to a large extent. Immature platelet fraction, normally from the megakaryocytes, once the platelet are produced and it is given to the peripheral blood, the first 1 or 2 days, these young platelets are called as an immature platelet. After 1 to 2 days, the platelet are matured and then they have a life of about 7 to 10 days. It is very important to find out this immature platelet or platelets which are there, fresh platelets, young platelets in the peripheral blood on the very first day. It has got multiple utility. It's one of the very good parameter, excellent parameter. It reflects the thrombopoietic activity of the bone marrow. It is directly proportional to the thrombopoiesis. Thrombopoiesis means production of the platelets. The more the IPF, more is the or adequate is the thrombopoietic activity in the bone marrow. So one should not worry when IPF is there, IPF is in adequate number or IPF is larger than the normal requirement. That means bone marrow is functioning fine for the production of the platelets. It is useful to differentiate between different types of thrombocytopenia. Very important. This is the second and most important utility. Normally, by and large, if you consider thrombocytopenia, if you have either because of the bone marrow suppression or bone marrow aplasia or bone marrow is disturbed by a tumor or some hematological disorder. This is one cause of thrombocytopenia. The other one, which normally we see, is because of the peripheral blood. In the peripheral, there is a peripheral destruction of the platelets, or platelets are consumed in large number as in certain condition of disseminated intravascular coagulation. So in both these conditions, there is a thrombocytopenia. But just by knowing the IPF value, one will be able to differentiate one from the other. How? If IPF is increased or it is normal in range, it is considered a peripheral destruction